Ausmoto Show, brought to you by Motorcycling Australia. I'm your host, Kate PECK, and it has been far too long since we've had a show on telly that is dedicated purely to all the facets of motorcycling. Wide open on-road, fully pinned off-road, sideways with Speedway, mostly upright with the occasional high side. We'll be bringing you the best bits of Motorcycling Australia championships, touching base with our Aussies who are overseas, achieving exceptional stuff, and the fascinating stories of the characters that populate our peculiar two-wheeling world. Coming up, we have some exceptionally high-achieving guests. We'll be kicking off by zooming with Australian Speedway legend and FIM Speedway Grand Prix World Champ Jason Doyle. Then Australian Superbike's new kid on the block, Desmo Ducati's Oli Bayliss. We'll join ProMX CDR Yamaha Monster Energy rider Luke Clout in the MX1 class. Followed by Australian Off-Road Championship EW champ Yamaha MX Store Ballards off-road team Jess Gardiner, who had a spectacular off at Golden Beach's round 2, but amazingly has made it into the studio broken and bruised. What a trooper. Remember to follow along at our social pages at Ausmoto Show and tag us if you've just got some new MX boots and you're going out for a track day, and we'll repost with the hashtag Ausmoto Show. So, another strong competitor in the ASBK is privateer Arthur SISSIS, who scored our What in the Moto moment.
Here we go, and action.
Arthur SISSIS, All right, take 2.
Brain farts. Sorry, Arthur, threw you under the bus there, but it happens to all of us, really. Our first guest for the day is Australian Speedway legend and FIM Speedway Grand Prix World Champion, Jason Doyle. Jason, where have we found you and what are you up to?
I'm in Leszno in Poland at the moment. I've been here for 8 weeks. We've started the league now, so at the moment we can only be racing in either Poland or 2 other leagues, which the Grand Prix haven't started yet for us, so we're still waiting to see what's happening. But at the moment, yeah, just Poland. I've been living at one of my sponsors' houses, but the Wi-Fi is down, so I'm at a hotel at the moment trying to get some good Wi-Fi to speak to you.
And take us back to Speedway Grand Prix in Melbourne, where you had a spectacular night, but something happened in the final and you ended up in an ambulance. But you redeemed yourself in true style by coming home and winning the World Championship on home soil. That must have been something pretty special.
The first Grand Prix in 2015, it was a massive buzz for myself and Chris and Troy. It was the first time we could actually race a Grand Prix in front of our home fans, and it was a special moment for myself to just make me final in Melbourne. But yeah, as you said, it ended in a little bit of an upside down tumble and with a broken neck. It's part and parcel of Speedway, but I was a bit disappointed to finish 2015 like that. And then obviously missed 2016 Australian Grand Prix for injury as well. And then redeemed myself and come back and won the world title and won the meeting that night in Melbourne in 2017, which was spectacular.
What is it that continues to motivate you throughout all of these unbelievable injuries?
I think it's the drug of winning a world title and also winning races and Grand Prix. Obviously, Poland is massive, England, when we're racing league racing, but to be in the Grand Prix, riding under the Australian banner, it's always nice to come out on top and win these meetings. Normally, at a normal season, I'd be racing over 90 meetings in a year, so it'd be quite busy, and sometimes you got to pick and choose which meetings are you're going to ride hard at and take it a little bit cautious in others. So it's with age, I've come to ease up a little bit in certain meetings and not ride 100%, and obviously I'm protecting myself a little bit, ready for the Grand Prix and the big meetings.
can we expect to see you back for the Australian Speedway Championship in December? And what would it mean to race again on home soil?
You have to ask the Australian government. If I don't have to quarantine, I would hope to come back and ride in the Australian titles. There's a few meetings that I'd like to do. I haven't rode in Australia for so many years now, and people say, why don't you go back? But before I done 10 straight years riding in the Australian Championship, and sometimes you just need to have that time off when you're riding so much in Europe, and it's upsetting not to ride in front of the Aussie fans, and I know they want me to come back and ride, but hopefully this year, hopefully the government can allow this, I'll come back and ride in Australia.
All right, Jason, well, thanks so much for chatting. We'd really like to see you down under. We'll chat soon.
See you soon.
And as promised, I have two very special guests on the panel racing in the Alpine Star Superbikes, Oli Bayliss, yay! And racing in Thor MX1, Luke Clout, yay! Boys, thank you so much for coming in today for our first ever episode. Oli, Luke, let's start with the hard questions. Mullets. Oli, where is yours gone?
Unfortunately, after the testing at the start of the year, I had to cut mine off because I don't think a lot of people could take me very seriously. So now we've sharpened up the haircut a little bit and, you know, getting on to the year.
I feel like mullets are back though. Were you upset to let it go?
I mean, I had it growing for about 2 years and was getting it cut because I went to a private school and they didn't really like it there. So when I moved schools, they let me have it, and yeah, unfortunately, it grew out to the point where I was looking a bit ratty, so yeah, had to cut it off.
Well, them's the breaks, right? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but we asked a few of your race mates what they thought of you and your mullet, and just got a bit of feedback from them that we wanted to share with you.
Just the mullet. I don't even know what to say about it, but it's just the mullet.
He's got a girlfriend now and she's like probably helped him a little bit. You know, she's probably been straight up and said, your haircut's no good, your clothing's bad. So she's fixed a couple of things for him. I've always told him, but he never listens. He thinks it just looks fast.
5 words. Stupid, funny, crazy. That'll do. Yeah.
A bit of raw humour from your race mates. Did you? Do you think that your girlfriend did help you?
I don't know. I think it just started to grow on her and she just started to get used to it. So when I cut it off, it was a bit of a difference for her. But yeah, it's good to see some of my good mates at the track liked my haircut just as much as I did.
Luke, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what's been happening in your life of recent. You've come back from a stint in the US racing AMA to compete in ProMX in Australia with CDR Yamaha Monster Energy Racing, which is huge. But you were in the US during that really strange COVID time. How bizarre was that racing in that, and how excited are you to be back in Australia racing ProMX?
Yeah, it was a weird time to be over there for sure. You know, I got a great opportunity, and you know, I went over and did it, and obviously life was normal when we first went over, and then all of a sudden it just you know, the world pretty much turned upside down. You know, I got back. We got in touch with the guys at CDR Yamaha Monster Energy, and we put a deal together, and you know, I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting start. Mixed results, Wonthaggi, a DNF, but you also got a podium. What were the learnings and the takeaways that you can put to use in the next round?
Yeah, it was definitely a mixed bag. You know, we got second in the first race and unfortunately had a DNF in the second. So it definitely made it tough for us in the championship, especially being the first round and being quite a few points down. But for a track that I don't really like as much as some of the upcoming ones, and to do what I did when I was winning the first race and winning it pretty convincingly, and then we ran into a few issues, it's given me confidence. So for me, it's just, I don't have the red plate or being in that kind of championship lead frame of mind. I'm just there to win races and gain points back. So for me, there's a little bit of pressure because I can't afford to make any mistakes, but I got to just win races, and that's what I plan on doing.
Well, win races you did, Luke. Canberra delivered with the weather, and your CDR Yamaha was on song, my friend. Moto 1 was a dominant win, leaving absolutely everyone in your dust. Moto 2 was a split race which served up some great battles at the front between yourself and Reagan Duffy. But at the end of the day, you stood top step on the podium, hence launching you up the order in the champ points to number 4, behind Reagan Duffy, Todd Waters and Hayden Melross. Now, Oli, you've also had a lot going on in the last year too. You've stepped up to a much, much larger bike. You're racing in the Alpine Star Superbikes, which does suit you more. We've seen you grow and now move onto the bigger bike from the 600. Does it suit you like a T? Is it feeling more natural?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I first jumped on the Panigale V4R at Morgan Park last year, like midway through last year, I found it really hard and it took me a while to get used to the bike. But as soon as we came into this year and did our first test, it pretty much just came to me and something clicked and the bike felt at home every time I ride it. So, and every time I do ride it, I end up going faster than what I've been doing.
And you can there's a little bit of room to grow on this bike too. So can you fit in a few more pies? I know before you had to be on a pretty strict routine and your dad, AKA your PT, AKA your boss, AKA 3-time World Superbike champ, Troy Bayliss, is on your case all the time. But can we squeeze in an extra beer or two?
Oh, a beer, no, because I'm still at school. But still, I'm trying to take it as serious as I can, and this bike definitely does suit me more because when I was racing 300s and even 600s a little bit, I was on the bigger side to everyone else. I mean, when it comes to 10 kilos on the littler bikes, it turns out to be like a 5k an hour difference down the straight. So, you know, every little bit counts. And on these bikes, luckily we're on the Ducatis because they're one of the fastest bikes you can be on.
So I know that you are at school. You probably meant to be at school today, right?
Yep. Yeah. Luckily, Mum let me have the day off.
So you've skipped school to be here. That's not bad. That's pretty good. You've had some great results already. Your P4 at Winton. Wakefield was a little bit different. You had a DNF. There was some bike issues, electrical issues there, but you've got Hidden Valley coming up next, which is... Well, you've had success there before in the 300. So talk to me about your mind frame going into that round.
Oh, I mean, going into Darwin, a lot of the teams won't be testing, I think. I think they've come up with a conclusion that most of the teams won't be going there to test, and I don't know if they're going to put that in the rules or not yet or not. But, yeah, we've won at Winton before. We've won at Hidden Vale before. And we plan on going there and winning again.
All right, boys, we've got your toys, so let's talk about them. Luke, we've got your Yamaha YZ450F. This is your practice bike, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about having a practice bike and a race bike and what are the differences?
Yeah, so, you know, some teams are different to other teams. So I'm lucky with, you know, the CDR Yamaha Monster Energy team. With our practice bike, they try and keep them as similar as possible to the race bike, because obviously, you know, we put so many hours and so much time on these bikes and then so little time on the race bikes, you know, it can feel a lot different. So for us, it's just trying to make the bikes as similar as possible. Obviously, they do feel a little bit different because, you know, we're riding these 4 times a week, 5 times a week, and then riding the race bike once a month, once a fortnight, whatever it might be. So, but yeah, for us, it's just, yeah, keep them as similar as possible and so we feel comfortable on race day.
And Oli, let's talk about this beautiful beast beside you. I know that it's not yours. It's the Ducati Panigale V4S.
Yep.
You've got the V4R.
V4R.
But tell me, what is the difference between the two bikes, between this one and your race bike? What modifications do you make?
So the V4S is very similar to the V4R, except when we do get them, we kind of flip them upside down, rip them apart, and we put different fairings on, different exhausts, different suspension, different brakes. We'll strip the whole bike before we start racing the season and make it as light as we possibly can. That way we can go a lot faster down the straights.
How many kgs do you pull off it, do you know?
These would probably weigh about 190 kilos right now, and we just got our race bike off the scales and it was 175, so ooh. Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a good weight loss.
Yeah.
Trim down.
Yeah.
It's like Jenny Craig for bikes.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Boys, I'm interested. Have you ever done any motocross?
I have, and yeah, look, let's just say it didn't really end too well. I think every time I ride a motocross bike, I have at least 5 crashes that day.
So no more of that.
Look, I want to start getting into it a little bit more because I feel like it can bring up my bike fitness for racing one of these bikes. But yeah, I got to source a bike and definitely source a few spare parts.
Well, I mean, your dad had the Oli Bayliss Classic, so you know dirt, and it is very common for road racers to take on dirt. So, Ollie, I think you need to get onto it, okay? And I think I know somebody who could sort you out, perhaps. But, Luke, have you done much road racing?
I've never ridden one. I've never even really sat on a road bike before.
What?
I've been to watch the races, and it's definitely crazy for me to watch how fast they go. I'd love to give it a go, but I definitely reckon I'd need a couple of spare set of leathers.
So is that because you crash, or is that because you do something in them accidentally?
Both, for sure.
So you've never done a track day either?
No, I never have. No, I'd love to, but for me, I mean, it's hard to be able to sort it and get myself out there.
That's amazing. Well, guys, come on. We're gonna do some new stuff, some fun stuff. We might try and sort you two out.
Yeah, I think we need to.
Yeah,
We'll do a bike swap at some stage this year.
All right, boys, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Up next, we have someone who's basically fresh from hospital. She's a 6-time international 6-day Enduro winner and a 6-time EW AORC winner, an overachiever. It's Jess Gardiner. You do not want to miss her, so we'll see you soon.
It's awesome when we can push each other a bit, and I just need to train more, I guess. No, she's good to compete against. We're always cheering each other on.
You know, she's always going to be there, she's always going to be strong, she's at the top for a reason, so we've always had close battles, it's always been great, it's always been a great sport, so yeah, she's been good.
Yes, indeed, an extremely tough competitor. Welcome back to the Ausmoto Show. I'm Kate Peck, and we have a very special guest on with us next. She's a true pioneer in the off-road and enduro world for females. She's won 6 international 6-day enduros and 6 AORC EW championships. It's Jess Gardiner from the Yamaha MX Store Ballard team. Jess, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Considering we were just at round 2 not too long ago and you had a monumental accident which sent you to the hospital, and you've just taken off your sling because it covers your sponsors. Is that right?
Yeah, most certainly. I had a big crash, unfortunately, at the recent rounds. It definitely didn't stop me though. I made sure I got back out there and finished off the day because I did have a big lead before that crash, and mentally I couldn't cope with quitting, so I made sure I did everything to get back.
That is so true. You are so tough. Now, your arm, your shoulder really, tell us exactly what happened, what the damage was.
So I had a big crash. It was quite a sandy, whooped out track. It was very rough because we raced on it on the Saturday beforehand. This was Sunday on my 4th sprint, so I'd won every sprint prior to that in the ladies. And unfortunately, yeah, just miscalculated, hit a tree root, and it sent me left, right, and basically slammed me really hard down on my shoulder. Luckily, I do wear the Clout protection, so I don't really have many marks other than from the impact. I managed to break my left shoulder blade.
Now, I caught you at the finish line and you were very emotional, but I've also heard that you were crying not because of your arm, but because you were in 3rd.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. I went from so much excitement and happiness to being so down because I couldn't perform how I wanted to, and I was quite restricted on the day. I literally went out with a tea towel taped up under my armpit so I could open my arm a little bit further and grab onto those bars, and I was basically tucked right in, holding onto that bike as best as I could and gritting my teeth. And right at the end, when you'd see me, I think all my adrenaline had run out. There was no adrenaline pumping left, and the pain was there, and also seeing my competitors, you know, being congratulated and the excitement of that feeling, you know, there's nothing beats that feeling of winning and to come in and know you haven't won, but you've done the best you could and finished. So at the same time, I was happy, and there was a bit of happy tears and sad tears and pain tears. It was all going on.
It was all going on. Well, Jess, you weren't the only one to have a shunt over the weekend. This one was a monumental by Yamaha's Blue Crew, KYRON Bacon. It was in lap 3. And he absolutely came flying into the last corner and cartwheeled like something out of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He well and truly fell off, bent his front and the wheel, and couldn't find his bike for a decent amount of time, but eventually limped to the finish line, and he was totally fine, which was quite a miracle in the end. Now, this is a trophy, one of your trophies, one of 6 of the International 6-Day, which you've also won twice outright. This is the competition where Daniel Milner and Daniel Sanders won it outright, and it made them globally famous. So can you tell us a little bit about the event, but also how you even get to race in this event?
So I was really privileged. I started racing from an older age of 12 years old. I first learnt to ride a competitive motorcycle, so with a clutch and so forth. And from there, I basically did every event I possibly could, and I found my way into the off-road scene. And to be competitive overseas, I did all the Australian off-road championships, really making sure I went to all those events, and I was travelling the countryside and putting in a lot of time, really, a lot of effort, whether it was after school. Back in the day, I was a bit younger, and do my homework first, of course, and then I was allowed to ride and train, and we'd be travelling interstate on the weekends to compete, and always travelling to compete with the faster competitors. And that really pulled me along and brought me eventually to the top. And once you get a taste of the top, you never want to go back, I tell you. So that's why I'm still here all these years later. I'm still fighting and still want to be the #1.
Talk me through this trophy and why you brought this one in particular.
So this one was from my European title in 2017. So 2017 was the only year that I basically raced full-time. So I said to my boss at work, can I please have 7 months off straight? And I basically just chased the enduro riding dream and trained full-time during the week, riding and then racing on weekends. And this was one of the ones I managed to bring back, chasing the European Championship. I've spent many years also at the World Championship, and that year I'd also won the French Championship. So amongst winning Australian titles, I was also overseas trying to get my name out there and ride and do what I love best.
Unbelievable. It's very hard for a female to be a professional athlete in Australia in motorcycling, just because of the amount of funding that you get. So not only do you really have to work exceptionally hard, but what's your day job as well? I know you've been there for a while. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I actually work in civil construction, working for JK Williams. I basically drive dump trucks. I did that for many, many years, which I've asked them of recent to stay off of dump trucks because it is quite boring. So now I'm between the graders and the water cart and labouring, which is really fun and obviously keeps it a bit more physical for me. So yeah, I'm still there Monday to Friday, 9.5 hours a day, and then weekends we pack up and we go racing. How
do you manage it all? Is it just a lot of budgeting and a lot of time? You just need to be very, very organised, because you also have your own team, which is the Yamaha MX Store Ballard team, which you've got your partner Jeremy on, and a young girl, a junior, Danielle McDonald, coming through too. So how does this all come together?
To me, running the team, it's not work, it's a real passion, taking Denny on board, passing on my knowledge to them future generations of the junior girls. That's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and to be able to piece that together last year. And it's just snowboard. Danielle's working really well with us as well, so it all just pieces together really nicely.
And this is, just quickly before we finish, this is your WR250F. Why do you choose this bike? What about it suits you so much? You've had it for a while, obviously, this style.
I specifically choose the WR250F because it's such a versatile bike. All-rounder, it's really reliable. The power delivery is perfect for me. I'm a lot more of a technical, smooth rider. I've really made it work really well for me, and I'd love riding it, so why would you change? Yeah,
it's your bestie. Why do you need anything else? Thanks so much for coming on, Jess. And we have plenty of action coming up in the Motorcycling Australia calendar. Be sure to get your backside trackside at the Penrite ProMX presented by AMX Superstores and the My Bike Motorcycle Insurance Australian Superbike Championship presented by Motul. Be sure to head to ma.org.au for all the details, and remember to follow along on our social pages at Ausmoto Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kate Peck, and remember to keep it pinned, but stay safe.